retard. And I won, okay, because I challenged the jurisdiction. I challenged them at this level. And I put the judge in a bind. They either had to admit that they were operating under admiralty law or they had to give me the win. They gave me the win. Because of the way that I had structured this, I'm not going to go into it. Anyway, so this is the thing. There is no rules of procedure for statutory law. They're operating without being able to provide you. You can find admiralty law rules of procedure. You can find all kinds of shit written about admiralty law, but they dare not say that that's the case. So if you get into a court with a judge, you politely ask the judge to define where you are at in terms of what's the jurisdiction, so that you can make a decision as to whether you're guilty or not guilty or how to proceed and so on. You need to understand how this thing works, and they must provide it to you. If you don't understand, they cannot proceed. It's one of the requirements that you have to acknowledge that you comprehend what the fuck's happening to you, because it's a contract, so you have to willingly buy into the contract. In order to willingly buy into it, you cannot be a mental deficient, and you must understand the terms of the contract, at least to the point where you can say that you willingly agree to them. Now, in order to do that in a court, you need to have what are known as the rules of procedure. And there are no rules of procedure for statutory law, because statutory law is just merely a name-stealing action on the part of the legal structure, which is not necessarily lawful, to try and disguise the fact that they're operating under admiralty law enforced on them by the banks. Now, I'm here to tell you today that we're going to go through another one of these periods of time. It's not 1938, it's 2022. And we've been going through it since 2016. And it'll continue for another couple of years. And what's happening here will not result in our guns being taken away, nor FEMA, although they'll try, becoming preeminent and the rule of the law. So if FEMA ever comes in, continuity of government ever comes in, the Constitution is suspended. The Congress need not meet, get elected, or anything like that. They're all permanent from that point on. And when they die, they appoint their kids, that sort of thing, right? So it's turning us into a kingdom at that point. That's what FEMA is intended to do. That's not going to happen, because what's going to, I know from the clues, that what's going to happen here is that we are going to redress Clause 17, all right? And because I've seen the clues myself, we're going to have another one of these shifts. So we had a shift in a major shift in 1871. We had another one there in 1790. These are shifts in law. And we had another one in 1938 that has been the most egregious, getting us into this bogus statutory law, right? Or admiralty. But we're going to have another one of these. And we're going to shift into the law of war. And this will continue for a number of years, okay? Because this war will continue for a number of years, because it's global. It's against an evil banking cartel and their minions, and they've got a lot of those, millions of minions. And it's going to be a long, drawn-out thing. And when you get into it, they did not want to have a situation where there was no rules of procedure. So you have here rules of procedure for our next phase in law, for our next shift into the law of war being dominant. So at some point, we will shift here, and there will be a different judiciary structure, because our judiciary is captured. It's 100% controlled by the democracy, not the constitutional republic. We don't have constitutional judges except in rare places, right? And the democracy shoots and kills as many constitutional judges as they can. That's why you'll see judges, drowned in lakes, accidents on the road, killing themselves, all of this kind of stuff. It's because they're being murdered by the operatives of the democracy, such that we will not have constitutional judges, and those judges that will remain are simply going to be admiralty judges, statutory judges, that will reinforce and compel compliance to the contract that the bankers want to put on us fraudulently to return us to basically a kingdom with them as a collective king. And that's what's happening now. That's what's going on now. And I think that we're in the process of swapping over into the law of war as all of this stuff emerges over these next couple of years. This will be the manual that you'll need to understand for all of your legal operations, for also state legislatures and so on. In 1871, when the bankers came on in, they took over the state capitals. All the buildings, all the property that the state government owns, they have to pay rent on to the bankers. They gave it as collateral. That was part of the federal government. The federal government, the democracy, tricked and has continued to trick the states since 1871 up through this point. Now you got a lot of savvy state legislators that are state people, state nationals that are going to attempt to get elected into their legislative position. So everything's up in the air. Everything's being torn up in terms of the social fabric, the social infrastructure. Okay, that being all torn up and stuff is what's part of the process of us shifting into a new form of law. And I can be guessing, and it can be wrong. But I'd like to see 5 years from now what kind of courts are operating, and how you have to address those courts and what you have to do in those courts, right? Because once what a lot of people, so you'll see people say the military is the only way, which is true. The democracy exists. It's captured our constitutional legislative body. It's captured all of our institutions, the banks, the education, the Justice Department, and parts of the military. Well, they're saying, some of these sites will say the military is the only way. The problem with that is, having been a military brat for 17 years and grown up in it and seen it and all of that, once the military comes on in, it's going to be there for a very, 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 very long time to sort out all of this stuff, a very long time. Not a year, not 2 years, but we're talking decades. That is why the manual was so thoroughly updated in 2016. Coincident with, and there you go, guys. So anyway, so that's my theory, and at this point, I'm sticking to it, right? Because I'm seeing more and more evidence. Now, I've got to go. There's all kinds of information that's been popping out about UFOs and all sorts of other things. I'll try and make another video if I can. I'm very busy. I had, for instance, a brand new tire go flat on me trying to go in and get shopping the other day. I'm 47 miles away from the nearest repair place for that tire, so I got issues. I got to repair 2 tractors because the environment's so harsh out here. And I've got to build my biodigesters, and we're working on the turbines for the electrical generation, and all of this kind of shit's going on. So it's difficult to get out here and make videos, many of which do need the whiteboard, because we're getting into that period of time where you have complicated shit that you've got to draw a bunch of pictures to make people at least have a hope in hell of understanding what's going on. And that's it. That's it. I really have to get back to work. So anyway, stay woo. It's not going to be any less intense going forward. We're just starting into the hump of the big ugly, and it's going to continue in until March or April of next year, and then we'll be able to have some level of clarity as to how things are proceeding. So anyway, stay woo, guys.